Thank you for joining us. I'm Felicity Ezewike. Let's begin in Nigeria's capital, Abuja, where the Nigerian police says that it has commenced investigation into the tragic incident which unfolded at the Kuchibuyi district of the Buhari Area Council in Abuja, where an explosion rocked the school premises on Monday. Eyewitnesses say several persons were affected, with the police confirming 2 dead. Our correspondent Joshua Imarai visited the community to assess the situation on the ground and filed this report.
Blood stains, uneaten soybean meal, and misplaced footwear tell the story of this tragedy. The explosion rocked the Sani Othman Islamia School in the Kuchibuyi district at Buhari Area Council in Abuja. The incident, which is the first of its kind in the community, claimed the lives of 2 students and left others injured.
Yesterday, around 11 to 12, I dey come back for fun. As I just dey road, I hear sound for gun. I don't know whether na gun or whether na wetin. I even say na this quarry people they are bring stone. I say na them. I rush con. As I rush con, I can't reach main road. I can't see outside people they run to go. I must say I rush go there. I can't see people from the ground.
Yeah, na fish man. When they are so do mama la marana. I tell me come on. Can't be for them.
The district head of the community, who was a victim of abduction by kidnappers about 2 years ago, reacted to the incident.
I want to tell the government, I want to tell all world, say, this Alimajiri, I'm not going to allow them to enter this my community again. The thing don't stop. We're not going to hear anything Alimajiri again for this my community. I want to beg government to get police station for this our community.
The Assistant Inspector General of Police in charge of Zone 7 and the FCT Commissioner of Police visited the scene also to assess the situation.
This is not bomb blast. I cannot say this is bomb blast at all, because we are still investigating. This school was built for this nomadic education by the federal government of Nigeria, as it then was. So you can see some people have converted it to an Islamic school.
As investigations continue, the community remains on edge, hoping for swift action to prevent such tragedies in the future. Authorities are calling for increased vigilance and cooperation from the public to ensure safety of all residents. In Abuja for News Central, I am Joshua Imarai.
The defense of the 2025 budget estimates by ministries, departments and agencies before various House committees failed to commence on Tuesday as scheduled. As about 5 p.m. on Tuesday, there was no sign of any activity at the various committee rooms in our House where the budget defense was expected to take place. A tour of the committee rooms showed an empty House, while the National Assembly complex appeared unusually quiet and devoid of its typical bustle. The reason for the delay remains unclear, but it is speculated that the absence of most members of the House, who may still be observing the Christmas and New Year holidays, could be a contributing factor. The House is expected to resume plenary on Tuesday, January 14, 2025. Lagos State House of Assembly has approved a total budget of 3.37 trillion naira for the 2025 fiscal year. The approval followed the presentation of a report by the chairman of the Joint Committee on Appropriation and Finance, Said Olumo, during Monday's plenary session. The budget allocates 1.3 trillion naira for recurrent expenditure and 2.07 trillion naira for capital projects, covering the fiscal year ending 31st December 2025. Now we bring you a timeline of the budget passage and key insights into the Lagos 2025 budget compiled by News Central's Segir Ibrahim.
2025 Lagos budget. Christian, the budget of sustainability by the state government, Governor Babajide Sanwo-Olu presented the initial proposal to the Lagos State House of Assembly on the 21st of November 2024, with a total figure of 3.005 trillion naira. The budget is structured around 5 key pillars of infrastructure sustainability, economic diversification, social inclusion and human capital development, environmental sustainability, and good governance and institutional reforms. After deliberations and adjustments, the Lagos State House of Assembly approved a revised budget of 3.367 trillion naira on the 6th of January 2025, marking an increase of 362 billion naira from the initial proposal. Key projects include the ambitious Green Line Rail project, a 68-kilometer rail line connecting Marina to the Lekki Free Trade Zone. Other priorities include investments in tourism, infrastructure, completion of road projects, and fostering economic growth through creative arts, agriculture, and industry. Over the years, Lagos State has steadily increased its budget to meet growing infrastructural and social development needs. In the year 2020, with a budget of 1.168 trillion naira, capital expenditure constituted 62%, with notable allocations to education at 108.3 billion naira, health at 97.262 billion, and security gulping 37.064 billion. In the year 2021, with a budget of 1.163 trillion naira, capital to recurrent ratio remained at 60-40, with increased funding for education at 146.9 billion and health with 106.087 billion. In the year 2022, the budget increased to 1.758 trillion, where capital expenditure rose to 66%, with strong focus on infrastructure gulping 199.95 billion naira and security at 70.716 billion. In the year 2023, with a budget of 1.768 trillion, health received 149.061 billion and security at 86.816 billion, though infrastructure spending dipped to 148.564 billion. In the year 2024, with a budgetary allocation of 2.26 trillion naira, capital expenditure accounted for 54.5%, with substantial allocations to education at 155 billion naira and health at 156 billion. The 3.37 trillion naira budget for 2025 represents a historic high, reflecting a 49% increase from 2024. Now, capital expenditure increased to 2.071 trillion, a 61.5% increase, while recurrent expenditure rose to 1.296 trillion, representing a 38.5% increase. Governor Babajide Sanwo-Olu emphasized that the budget of sustainability aims to drive economic growth through strategic investment in infrastructure, human capital, and key sectors. The governor is expected to give his final assent in the coming days. In Lagos, Sagir Ibrahim for News Central.
To unpack this, we're joined by Head Research and Policy Advisory Budget, Nnamdi Kanu. Nnamdi, thank you very much for joining us. What is the financial impact of the budget on key sectors such as transportation, health, and education in Lagos? And how do these allocations compare with previous budgets in terms of growth and contraction?
Yeah, good evening, and thanks for having me. I hope I'm audible.
Yes, you are. Go ahead, please.
Yeah, thanks for that question. I mean, we have not seen the complete breakdown, of the budget, but from the summary figures or the aggregates, we can see that, Lagos continues to be that poster child for how a subnational should run with regards to, its ambition, with regards to the expenditure size of the budget, the revenue estimates, and how well it's driving investments in very critical sectors of the economy. With regards to comparison year on year with the budget size, we see that for this year, there's an increase, about a 48% increase in the budget size from last year, from 2.27 trillion naira in 2024 to about 3.37 trillion naira in 2025. And if you look at the disaggregation of that budget along the lines of recurrent and capital, you also see that with the 2025 budget, there's a minute increase in terms of the size. So you have the capex taking about 61% of the budget, and the recurrent taking about 38.55% of the budget, as the case may be. But we would like to see the breakdowns with regards to which sectors get a chunk of the budget. If we look at the trends from the 2024 budget, critical social sectors like health, education, social protection, especially in a year where citizens are facing the brunt of the two major economic reforms, you would expect that a lot more resources will go to those sectors. So for the 2024 fiscal year, the health budget was around 7%, the education budget also around 70%, but social protection really low at 3%. If you consider the fact that the poorest of the poor or the most vulnerable have been the hard hittest with regards to these the two twin policy reforms that this administration took on, then you would expect that, more resources of the state would be geared towards that sector to provide, a cushioning effect for the most vulnerable amongst us.
Given the amount that we have, what are the expected trends in Lagos State's internally generated revenue over the next fiscal year, and how realistic are these projections based on historical data?
So if you look at the budget performance for 2023, rather as well, Lagos was able to implement about 88% of its budget. If you look at also the implementation report for the first 3 quarters of the year, you have it at almost 60% of the budget. So I believe by the time you add the 4th quarter, it will take it to almost at 80 or 35% as the case may be, which puts it at a fairly credible budget level as the case may be. Then if you look at the disaggregation of the revenue components, I mean, year in, year out, you've had Lagos, had about 67 to 70% of their IGR contribute to total revenue. I mean, which demonstrates the less reliance on fact transfers for the bulk of their revenues, and doesn't make them as susceptible to external shocks as other states that rely on fact transfers for the bulk of their revenues, as the case may be. And so we continue to see that trend increase with regards to how Lagos State has been able to mobilize revenues internally. A lot more can be done in that regard, especially if you consider the fact that in very critical sectors of the economy, like the transport sector, a lot of revenue that should be coming into government coffers, still goes to non-state actors. And so there's still room for improvement with regards to mobilization of our revenues internally, as the case may be, especially with the introduction of technology. And if you also look at some of the provisions of the new tax bills with regards to also reducing the number of taxes and ensuring that cash is discouraged, we do expect that for Lagos State and across a number of states across the federation, if these bills are passed and implementation follows, that a lot more revenue will be generated by the states internally.
How will the proposed allocation of the budget to infrastructure projects and development initiatives improve Lagos' economic performance, and what key performance indicators should be tracked to measure success?
Yeah, so for the transport sector again, because we see that that's one sector, that there still remains a lot of challenges, especially with the gridlocks, with the movements of goods and services across the entire state, and movement maybe from the ports, to other parts of the country. The state still requires a lot of investment in that regard, a lot of innovation in that regard. If you look at water transport, for instance, we have not been able to fully maximize the potentials of that sector with regards to decongesting the roads. It's also good that the green rail line has been given a nod in this budget. There's also 125 billion naira support from the federal government as counterpart fund, also for the green rail line. We do expect that this will open more arteries, will decongest the road, but we expect that with the state of the roads, across different cities across the state, that the state government will also invest a lot in rehabilitating those roads and ensuring that the contractors who do, get the contract to construct these roads, do so in a sustainable way, so that when the rains come, we do not go back, the roads do not go back to their former state, and cause gridlocks across the state as usually is the practice. So there's a lot of room for investments in that sector. If you also look at the ease of doing business index, and you look at power is also a very critical driver, of economic growth. We do expect that with the amendment of the Constitution, that has given more powers to the states to be able to generate electricity, that Lagos State would invest, in clusters to be able to provide electricity for clusters to, improve productivity in certain sectors of the economy. We also do hope that for sectors like the creative economy and arts, Lagos is almost like the epicenter for, the creative arts in the country, and we do expect that the state will continue to invest in those sectors so that it can, maximize the gains of those sectors in the 2025 fiscal year.
I wish we had more time in your bunk. Thank you very much for speaking with us.
Yeah, thanks for having me, and have a lovely evening.
If you've just joined us, you're watching Tonight. A reminder of our top stories. Police launch investigation into Abuja Islamic school explosion. House of Representatives fails to commence defensive 2025 appropriation bill. IPOB leader Nnamdi Kanu's lawyer rejects federal government requests to resume treasonable felony trial. And John Mahama sworn in as 14th president of Ghana. The Edo State Governor, Nnamdi Okpebholo, has defended the suspension of 18 elected local government chairmen by the State House of Assembly. Explaining the events that led to the suspension, the governor alleged that the chairman failed to account for the purpose of contributing 800 million naira monthly to certain leaders of the certain political party. Okpebholo disclosed this during a meeting with acting local government chairman at the government house in Benin City, the state capital. Reassuring the acting chairman of his full support, the governor expressed confidence in the ability to deliver services that would drive grassroots development across the state. Let's tell you that a state high court sitting in Enugu has issued an interim injunction barring the apex Igbo socio-political group, Ohaneze Ndigbo, from considering the candidacy of former Inspector General of Police, Michael Okiro, in the January 10 election for the position of President General of the organization. The ruling followed a motion filed by Chimenu Amadi, acting on behalf of the indigenous Igbos of Rivers State. The motion sought to restrain Okiro from contesting, arguing that as an indigene of Imo State, he was ineligible for the position which is reserved for indigents of Rivers State. The court upheld the motion, granting an interim injunction on the grounds of Okiro's ineligibility based on his state of origin. This injunction will remain in effect pending the hearing and determination of the motion on notice for interlocutory injunction. Now to one of our lead stories tonight. The lead counsel for Nnamdi Kanu, the leader of the indigenous people of Biafra, Aloy Ejimako, has rejected a request by the federal government to set a date for the resumption of his client's trial. Speaking on Tuesday, Ejimako said the development, emphasizing that Kanu remains strong despite his ongoing detention, during which he is allowed 3 visitations weekly. The federal government is prosecuting Kanu on a 7-count charge, including alleged treasonable felony and terrorism. Kanu, who pleaded not guilty, was rearrested in Kenya in 2021 and subsequently extradited to Nigeria. At the most recent court session on September 24, 2024, Kanu asked Justice Binta Nyako to recuse herself from the case, citing a loss of confidence in the court. In Nigeria's northeast, the Borno state government has announced plans to begin construction of a state-of-the-art rail system as part of its broader infrastructure development initiative. The decision was made during the first Executive Council meeting of 2025, which outlined several key projects aimed at modernizing the state's infrastructure. News Central's Umaru Kirawa completes the report.
This is the present state of the rail system in Nigeria's state of Borno. The coaches, overgrown by grasses, remain shadow of itself, with the rail lines in most areas a dumping ground.
The Ministry of Transport and Energy is hard at work. This project requires environmental impact assessment. It requires feasibility studies, social impact assessment. It also requires compensation to be paid to, places where, private homes will have to be taken over to build aspects of the, light rail infrastructure. So it requires time, but government is committed to it, and inshallah very soon the Maiduguri urban rail will, be fully functional.
Shortly after the median Executive Council meeting for the year 2025, Borno State government revealed that the rail project is aimed at improving transportation, boosting commerce, on connecting major urban centers within the state.
When we went to China with His Excellency, last 2 months we were in the corporation, China Railway Corporation, where we meet the managing director. So we talked about the light rail of the township of Maiduguri. They have already come and assessed the already existing infrastructure, the rail that is lying in Maiduguri from Kaswan Shanu up to Bulunkutu. I think they are going to use the existing rail, then they are going to add new one.
The rail system will link Maiduguri, the state capital, with other key towns and regions in Borno, providing a more efficient means of transportation for both passengers and goods.
Council took decision on the need for street naming and house numbering in Maiduguri and other urban rural locations in Borno State. This came about as a result of the urban renewal of Maiduguri. As you know, Maiduguri is fast developing.
The government says the initiative will involve the systematic naming of streets and the installation of clear standardized signage, which will make navigation easier for residents and visitors as the state recovers from insurgency. In Maiduguri for News Central, Umaru Kirawa.
To health matters. The Nigeria Center for Disease Control, NCDC, says the country is at moderate risk of human metapneumovirus, that's HMPV. In a public health advisory, the agency said the federal government is closely monitoring the outbreak of the virus and is taking safety measures to strengthen the country's preparedness and response capacity. The NCDC said it conducted a risk assessment for the HMPV in collaboration with the Federal Ministry of Health and partners such as the World Health Organization, WHO, the U.S. Centers for Disease Control and Prevention, and the UK Health Security Agency. While there are claims in some quarters that the WHO has declared HMPV a public health emergency of international concern, the agency described it as false and should be disregarded. John Mahama has been officially sworn in as Ghana's 14th president, alongside his running mate, Jane Nana Opoku-Agyemang, and in front of other presidents and dignitaries. President Mahama promised to restore Ghana to her past glory by fighting corruption, achieving economic stability, and fostering national unity and inclusion, among other things. News Center's Beneda Kede reports.
The transition is now complete and history has been made. John Dramani Mahama has officially been sworn in as Ghana's 14th president. In a ceremony that was attended by several world leaders, the event had the Vice President, Jane Nana Opoku-Agyemang, proudly take her oath of office as the country's first female vice president. Then, amidst cheers and celebrations from the crowd at the Black Star Square, the new president took to the stage and swore his oath.
As your next leader, I shall strive to exercise sound judgment and be able to make the right calls at the right time. I will have the humility and presence of mind to take responsibility for any challenges and be willing to act firmly and timelessly to resolve the challenges that we face as a nation.
As for the inaugural speech, the president started by recognizing the guests present and then acknowledging his political opponent, Dr. Mahmudu Bawumia, and the outgoing president, Nana Addo Akufo-Addo, who on the same day 8 years ago was sworn in while Mahama was stepping down. While outlining his vision for Ghana's future, the key points of the president's speech included gratitude and commitment to Ghanaians for their trust, pledging that their support would lead to meaningful change, economic recovery and stability. He emphasized plans to restore and stabilize the economy, aiming to create jobs and reduce poverty, business and investment environment. The president assured that Ghana is open for business, promising a more transparent and fair tax regime to stimulate growth. Governance and constitutional reforms. Mahama highlighted the need for governance reforms to enhance transparency and accountability.
The circumstances we find ourselves in are indeed dire, But even so, I'll be decisive and swift in my actions. We'll focus our initial efforts on 4 critical areas. And the first is economic restoration and stabilization of the macroeconomic environment. The second is the improvement of the business and investment environment to ensure that Ghana is once again open for business. The third is governance and constitutional reforms. And the final, but not the least, is accountability and the fight against corruption.
Furthermore, the president spoke on fighting against corruption. He reiterated his commitment to combating corruption, ensuring that public resources are used for the benefits of all citizens. National unity and inclusivity. Mahama called for unity among Ghanaians, urging citizens to work together to build a more prosperous and resilient country. Acknowledgement of predecessors' efforts. Mahama commended the previous administration for its contributions, particularly in economic growth and infrastructural development, and expressed his intent to build upon these achievements. Calls for national reset. He stressed the need for a national reset to restore faith in Ghana's institutions and leadership, encouraging citizens to enter into a covenant to build the Ghana they all desire. The special guest of honor and current ECOWAS chairman Bola Tinubu celebrated with the president, expressing his willingness to further improve relationships between Nigeria and Ghana.
Today, I am here not only as the President of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, but also as an African in resolute support of Ghana and our people. This moment is a source of pride and honor for Ghanaians, the entire continent, and its diaspora.
President Mahama's speech in conclusion set a tone for hope and determination, focusing on economic revitalization, good governance, and national unity as the pillars of Ghana's future development. In Lagos for News Central, I'm Bernard Akede.
Still on the inauguration, Nana Jane Opoku-Agyeman's appointment as Ghana's first female vice president positions the West African country, with its population of 34 million and respected democratic framework, towards potentially selecting its first woman president. For News Central, international correspondent Afia Hagen has more.
The selection of Nana Jane Opoku-Agyeman as Ghana's pioneering female vice president adds the nation to the expanding list of African countries promoting gender balance in governance. The literature professor stepped into this position following the successful re-election of President John Dramani Mahama, representing the National Democratic Congress in the 7th of December 2024 elections. Opoku-Agyeman's career showcases her pioneering spirit. She made history as the University of Cape Coast's first female vice-chancellor in 2008, followed by her role as Ghana's education minister during Mahama's tenure from 2013 to 2017. She broke new ground again in 2020 as the first woman vice presidential nominee from a major Ghanaian party, although that campaign proved unsuccessful. But this time around, Opoku-Agyeman made history.
Historic, huge win, not just for women, but for everyone. Diverse leadership benefits everyone. So I'm just really excited to see, particularly with the economic difficulties that Ghana's been going through, some new thinking coming in, some new ideas, hopefully, as well. So, and we all know that when it comes to women in leadership, societies thrive, both economically, politically, and socially. So I'm really excited to see what happens next.
This milestone marks crucial progress for Ghana, where women make up 51% of the population, yet occupying merely 14.5% of parliamentary positions, as reported by the World Bank. This statistic remains considerably lower than the worldwide average of 26.9%. Ghana's progress mirrors a wider African trend in female leadership. Rwanda stands as a global leader, with 61.3% women in its parliament. Tanzania's President Samia Suluhu Hassan, and Namibia's Ntumbu Nandi Ndaitwah, who made history as her nation's first female president, exemplify women's growing influence in African governance. For News Central, I'm Mafia Hagan.
Joined by Pan-Africanist Mawuli Dake. Mawuli, thank you so much for giving us your time. The energy and optimism among Mahama's supporters is palpable, and it suggests a deep desire for change. How sustainable, though, do you think this enthusiasm will be, given the economic pressures and expectations to see results in maybe 100 days or less?
Thank you, and I'm glad to join you and your listeners this evening from Accra, Ghana. In terms of the question, time will tell, but it is understandable that we'll have this level of enthusiasm and passion and call for change, considering what we have experienced over the past 8 years. We were in a similar situation 8 years ago when we got rid of John Mahama to bring in Akufo-Addo and Bawumia with huge promises that didn't materialize. So in one way, it's also our way of saying sorry, to apologizing to Mahama based on what we have experienced. But also Ghana needs a new direction, a new hope. And so it is our prayer that truly this can translate into a meaningful transformation and a positive agenda for Ghana.
What are some of the key policy changes or initiatives Mahama is likely to implement to address the economic challenges based on his record as a former president?
Well, luckily for him, he comes with some history and experience. So he wouldn't need much time to learn and adjust. His economic policy is basically fashioned around what he calls the 24-hour economy. As you may know, unemployment, economic crisis have been some of the biggest challenges facing the country. And so one of the reasons that people are extremely happy is what he promised to do with the economy, which is the 24-hour economy, to expand the economy, basically beyond our usual day economy into creating the business environment for businesses to operate 2 or 3 shifts. They promised 3 shifts. I would have been more comfortable with us going from 1 shift system to 2 shifts instead of 3. But hey, they say if you dream, you should dream big. So I don't want to stand in the way of that bigger vision of a 3-shift economy. But basically, his economic policy is fashioned around the 24-hour economy. He promised to create more jobs. He promised to create the enabling environment for people to have confidence in investing in Ghana. We've had serious challenges under the outgoing government, where a lot of investors encountered problems that you couldn't have envisaged happening with in Ghana. First, their investments and even their bank accounts and all that. So we hope that at least the basic things like checking corruption, creating the environment for people who want to do genuine business to be able to do that. I think that if he can at least provide that low-hanging assurance, I think that it will make a positive difference. But in terms of the transformation, I am not too hopeful in the sense that we run a neoliberal economy, and I don't think that he intends to radically change that, or that Ghanaians will be willing to give him the opportunity to reset the economy in that fundamental way. So in one way or the other, we are going to remain more like a second-class economy in the global context. I would have hoped for a more radical shift in our economic approach, a more independent approach.
All right, Mawuli, thank you for speaking with us. We appreciate your time.
Thank you too.
Business News in association with Money Master PSB, the easy way to master your money.
Welcome to Business News. Nigeria's foreign exchange reserves grew by $591.78 million in a month following the $2.2 billion Eurobond auction on December 2, 2024, climbing from $40.292 billion to $40.884 billion by January 3, 2025. This 1.47% increase reflects the strategic impact of the Eurobond proceeds and foreign exchange inflows. Central Bank of Nigeria data showed consistent growth with notable gains from oil revenues and CBN interventions. Compared to January 3, 2024, reserves rose by $7.84 billion or 23.74%, signaling effective fiscal management and external financing. The steady rise underscores Nigeria's efforts to stabilize its foreign exchange position amid economic challenges and leverage global conditions for financial resilience. Still in West Africa, cocoa purchases in Ghana dropped significantly in December due to delayed payments from the State Marketing Board, Cocoa Board, and reduced exporter financing, farmers and buyers reported. The delays attributed to uncertainty around the December 7 election that brought former President John Dramani Mahama back to power have raised concerns about increased smuggling. Cocoa Board's shift to a new marketing system this season, relying on global traders and buyers to finance cocoa purchases, faced disruptions during the election period. Licensed cocoa buyers throttled financing, citing delayed reimbursements and cautious lending by banks. A major buyer reported a 20% drop in purchases for December, reflecting financing strains alongside election-related uncertainties. However, Mahama has pledged cocoa sector reforms. And in East Africa, Kenya's shilling strengthened marginally on Tuesday, trading at 129 to 129.60 per dollar. This is slightly up from Monday's ending figures of 129.10 to 129.60 to the greenback. However, traders expect the currency to weaken due to rising dollar demand from manufacturing and oil retailing firms. The Kenyan shilling continues to face persistent pressure amidst heightened demand for imports. Meanwhile, Kenya's economic growth decelerated to 4% in the third quarter of 2024, down from 6% in the same period in 2023. The slowdown was attributed to underperformance across most sectors of the economy. The decline highlights challenges in sustaining robust growth amid global and domestic economic pressures. Well, that's our offering on Business News at this time. Thank you for watching. I am Perpetua Fasami Peter. The news continues shortly.
Sports Update, brought to you by Corn Oil. Corn Oil, we go the extra mile.
In the world of sport, the president of the Nigerian Football Federation, Ibrahim Guzo, has revealed that a new coach for the senior men's national team of Nigeria will be officially unveiled soon. Nigeria have been without a substantive coach since the short term of Finidi George, which lasted just a month, with interim coach Augustine Iguavon guiding them successfully through the qualifiers of the 2025 African Cup of Nations. Iguavon has returned to his role as the technical director of the federation, with a new coach expected to be in place before the World Cup qualifiers resumes in March. According to Guzo, the new coach will lead the national team to the 2024 African Nations Championships, which will be co-hosted by Kenya, Uganda and Tanzania.
Nigerians will know the coach of the Super Eagles very soon. I'm sure you are aware that the technical committee sat on Thursday to discuss about it, and I'm just waiting for their report. And if we go through the report with the approval of the board, then we move on. But definitely Nigerians will know the coach of the Super Eagles who will steer the affairs of the team going to the World Cup qualifiers.
In a bid to chart a clear path for the future of Nigerian Domestic Football League, Nigerian Sport Commission Chairman Malam Sheudiko met today with the chairman of the Nigeria Premier Football League, Bengai Legbeleye. The crucial meeting held in Abuja was focused on exploring collaborative efforts to improve the administration, competitiveness and overall development of the NPFL. Diko will assume leadership of the NSC in a mandate to drive sport reform in the country, expressed his commitment to working closely with the NPFL to ensure sustainable growth. He noted that the league's critical role in the development of football in Nigeria, emphasizing the importance of aligning both bodies' efforts for the benefit of the nation's sporting future. Renowned mixed martial arts fighter Francis Ngannou recently met with former Nigerian President Olusegun Obasanjo at his office in Abeokuta, Ogun State. Ngannou shared photos of the meeting on his Instagram handle, expressing his gratitude for the opportunity to receive words of wisdom from Nigeria's former leader. Ngannou's visit to Nigeria follows his Christmas holiday in Cameroon. During his stay, he was spotted socializing with celebrities like Burna Boy and Kamaru Usman in Lagos. This visit marks Ngannou's return to Nigeria after his successful debut with the Professional Fighters League, the PFL, where he achieved the first-round knockout victory over Ricardo Ferreira. And that's it in the world of sport. I am Onyinyechi Obaro.
Before we head on to entertainment, let's bring you this news. In sports still, the Nigeria Football Federation has announced Eric Chow as the new coach of the Super Eagles. At its meeting held in Abuja on Thursday, 2nd of January 2025, the NFF Technical and Development Subcommittee had recommended the appointment of the 47-year-old Malian with immediate effect. Chow has the responsibility of guiding the Super Eagles to the 2026 FIFA World Cup finals, or the next round of matches, match day 5 and 6, taking place in March. Let's now join our entertainment desk for the latest update.
Entertainment news in association with Glow Unlimited.
And now in entertainment tonight. It's official. Hollywood star-studded couple Jennifer Lopez and Ben Affleck are set to finalize their divorce by February the 20th, nearly 2 years after they rekindled their romance and tied the knot in July 2022. Lopez filed for divorce in August 2024, citing irreconcilable differences and listing April the 26th as her date of separation. In the legal proceedings, neither party will pay spousal support and both will retain their separate possessions, including business interests and project earnings. According to TMZ, Affleck, who's 52, will keep his stake in Artist Equity, the production company he co-founded with Matt Damon in 2022, prior to his marriage to Lopez. The company has produced notable films like Air and Unstoppable. Meanwhile, Lopez, who is 55, will maintain her income from several successful projects, including Atlas, This Is Me Now, and The Mother. In addition to the division of assets, Lopez will revert to using her maiden name, Jennifer Lynn Lopez, dropping Affleck as her surname. This marks the end of a complex chapter for the couple, whose on and off relationship dates back to the early 2000s. The two famously became engaged in 2002, but called it off before eventually reuniting in 2021. In a revealing interview last October, Lopez opened up about the impact of the divorce, admitting that the split almost took me out for good, but stressing she has no regrets about the decision. As both stars move forward, their fans are left to reflect on what was once a high-profile love story, now ending in an amicable separation. In Nigeria, it's exciting news for Afrobeats fans. It looks like the highly anticipated collaboration between the Akbata sisters, Niniola and Tenny, might finally be on its horizon. During a recent interview, Niniola dropped a major hint when asked about working with her sister Tenny. With a smile, she shared, "It's in the works already, so just stay close," sending fans into a frenzy of excitement. The prospect of the duo joining forces has long been speculated, and it seems like it's closer than ever to become a reality. The news of a potential collaboration is sure to thrill fans of both stars, who have each carved out their unique space in the Afrobeats genre. Niniola, who has been active for over a decade, is known for blending house music with Afrobeats, delivering smash hits like Maradona, Omorakbala, and Addicted. Her powerful vocals earned her Headies for Best Female Vocal Performance Award in 2020 for her hit single Addicted. Meanwhile, Tenny, who credits her sister as her primary inspiration for pursuing music, has also built an impressive career with a string of chart-topping tracks and critically acclaimed songwriting. 2024 was a remarkable year for both sisters, with Niniola releasing her third album, Press Play, while Tenny dropped the 16-track LP, Tears of the Sun. If they do collaborate, it will mark their first ever joint project, and fans are eager to see if the chemistry they share on stage will translate in an unforgettable hit.
And that's all tonight, but before we go, let's take another look at some of the major stories. Police have launched investigation into Abuja Islamic school explosion. House of Representatives has failed to commence the funds of 2025 appropriation bill. IPOB leader Nnamdi Kanu's lawyer rejects federal government's request to resume treasonable felony trial. We also told you that John Mahama has been sworn in as the 14th president of Ghana. Remember, you can catch up on all the latest news by watching News Central Live on DSTV channel 422, Star Times channel 274, Abo TV, and on YouTube. As always, thank you very much for your kind company. Have a good night.